You've probably heard, like I have, if you got nothing to hide, well, why are you worried about being watched or videoed or recorded or, all the cameras in the corners? Everybody says, a more safe society, like, say, London, is safe because all the cameras that are mounted and no one has weapons, et cetera, et cetera. And so you might think that, well, if I got nothing to hide and I haven't done anything wrong, then who cares if they're watching? It doesn't make any sense for me to be worried about who's watching if I haven't done anything wrong. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. It's nice to think that if I haven't done anything wrong, that nobody's watching who would care whether or not I've done anything wrong. Right? I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I want to remind you that there are a lot of things that 2 weeks ago weren't wrong, but today they are. And a lot of things that 2 weeks ago were wrong, but today they're not. An example might be the riots in the streets. And some riots, like the ones in Manhattan around Max's bar, those apparently are a problem. But the ones that happened months ago, those were not a problem. And it's a little bit confusing. This morning I was watching an episode of the Polk County Sheriff talking about the various things going on in Florida. And he talked about a young lady in her teens broke up with her boyfriend and said, I don't like him anymore. And so her new boyfriend and her got together to go beat the guy up. Well, she didn't go alone. She had to take some extra friends. So she took another girlfriend and then another girlfriend. And the four of them showed up at the guy's house to beat the guy up. He was 15. And so as they attacked him, his mother came home. And as his mother came home, the teens jumped back in the van, which happened to be a borrowed church bus, and they ran over the mother, killing her. Now, ironically, all of this was caught on the series of cameras in the home of the teenager who was being assaulted. Yes, the mother was murdered by teenagers. All of them minors except one who just turned 18, the son of a pastor, driving the church bus, ran over a mother. Now, just ask yourself for a moment if these young people thought at all about whether or not there was a camera, like a Ring doorbell, or a neighbor with a cell phone, or a security camera. Did they really think that this behavior was going to go completely unnoticed? Were they unable to discern that somebody was watching and they were going to get caught? Now, I know, again, we're not concerned about cameras when we feel like what we're doing in our life is okay. When we're not doing anything wrong, we're not worried about somebody watching, about somebody spying in on us, about somebody tapping into our own home cameras or our cell phones. Yeah, have you noticed that little orange dot that pops up on your cell phone when you're not using it for anything? That's a sign to you that the camera and the microphone have been turned on by some app or software or remotely, that someone else is using your phone as a spying device. I know, it sounds conspiratorial, it sounds ridiculous, but just remember that what you think today is not a problem, tomorrow could be a problem. In the 1940s, it wasn't illegal to be a Jew until it was. It wasn't a problem to worship at a certain kind of place until it was. It wasn't even a problem to have friends like that who might worship at a place like that until it was. And then it could cost you your freedom, your wealth, or even your life. Yeah, we live in a day when we think nobody's really watching what I'm doing. Nobody's paying any attention to me. I'm not doing anything wrong. Why would I care? Have you noticed that most insurance companies today want to connect your cell phone to your car? They want to track how fast you're going and how fast you brake and how often you turn. And if you think that they're not tracking where you are and how much time you spend at the liquor store or the movie theater or that particular place, you'd be crazy. If you haven't watched Snowden and Social Dilemma, you should. And you should probably know that the lead story on LinkedIn today was 2 Google employees who were terminated after they were observed by Google without their notice internally, spied on is the way the article says it. I can't classify it as that, but I can tell you what the article said. And the article said they were illegally spied on by Google and then fired for what Google found them to be doing. They were illegally spied on and then fired for what they were found to be doing. Now, ironically, the people coming to their defense is the National Labor Relations Board, which has some relationship with unions, which has some relationship with people working in fair or unfair conditions. And that, all by itself, makes me wonder who's really watching and why. And again, if you're not doing anything wrong, who cares who's watching, right? But chances are you're being watched and you don't know it. And what you're doing right now doesn't seem like it's wrong. And it doesn't seem like it would ever be wrong. It doesn't make any sense to be wrong for your nation of birth or to be wrong for your religious idea. It doesn't seem wrong to be guilty of doing something that for hundreds of years has been okay. And now all of a sudden it's not okay. Also understand that there are new laws being written every single day that restrict behavior that has never been restricted. I just heard this morning that in Los Angeles, you can now be ticketed for walking or riding a bicycle due to restrictions related to this illness thing. Who knew you could get a ticket for riding a bicycle unless it was, say, across someone's front lawn? Again, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I was just walking. I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I was just riding a bicycle. But somebody is always watching, and there will always be someone who thinks whatever you're doing is wrong. So as a leader, you've got to remember that it's not just your judgment of what's right and what's wrong. It's not just your opinion of what's right and what's wrong. It's the opinion of those that may or may not like you, the opinion of those who may or may not have an axe to grind, like a 15-year-old ex-girlfriend. It's the opinion of those who decide your future. That's who's really watching. And what your opinion of good or bad, right or wrong is, I don't care who's watching me, I'm not doing anything wrong. That's not really relevant. What's really relevant is who's watching and what they decide is right or wrong about what they saw you do. So for that reason, as leaders, you've got to be above board, more than on the up and up. You've got to make sure that the level, the standards, the bar that you set for yourself, for your organization, for your behavior is so far above reproach that it's going to be really hard for somebody to come back later and go, yeah, but when you did that, that was way wrong. Because my friends, I'm afraid that day is coming where what we thought was right is no longer right. And what we thought was wrong is no longer wrong. And the people who are being charged and prosecuted for things that we thought, I don't understand how that's wrong, are not going to live to see their freedom. It's a scary time to be in. But we're there. We're there. And somebody is always watching. Somebody is always watching. Integrity is what you do when you do the right thing when nobody's watching. Now, somebody's always watching, so just keep that in mind. As you go through your daily life and you make small decisions that seem like they mean nothing to anybody else, just remember, somebody is always watching. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith